Okay.
But we are recording, and it's a new NSL live talk with Mr. Gary Smith. Schmitty, we
Good.
talk. Yeah, hi, good morning, or good afternoon it is for you, I guess, right?
Yeah, and good morning to you in Florida.
Yeah, thank you. So you are back in at your new home there in Doha in Qatar,
Yeah,
and we just did our last NSL live talk was in Norway. Um, and
correct.
then you've been in Belgium, and now you're in Qatar. And do you see home and family actually once in a while?
Yeah, I have to be honest, between Belgium and Qatar, I went home for 1.5 days before flying back here, and I fly home tomorrow. So I spend 2 weeks at home tomorrow. My brother actually comes over from South Africa, and I spend at least 3, 4 days with him before he travels a bit of Europe. And then I come back here, and then we fly to, it looks like Empuria Brava for October. So it
Well,
doesn't stop.
sometime at least.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for making the millions of dollars that there in Qatar, I guess
Millions, millions,
yeah,
millions.
you have to
Zimbabwean dollars, eh?
you have to work a little bit for it.
Yeah.
Oh well, the thing is you have to arrange your family affair like Sven is obviously doing it now. He just takes his family on the skydiving ride, and then you met him in Belgium, right? So let's begin with this actually with the Belgian Dutch Open Championship event at Skydive Flanders, right in Moorsele.
Yes, correct.
That's where it was. You were there with the Lions,
Yeah,
and
I mean, what a great event. I mean, from Voss, we traveled back to Holland. We could not train there on site because it's a military style drop zone and they were not open during the week. So we went to Teuge in Holland for 5 days training with the two Qatar teams, the Lions and the Cheetahs. But the weather was not that favorable. The plan was not to do too many jumps, but just to keep them rolling. And I think we did 22 and 23 jumps with both teams. And then we traveled to Belgium for this competition. And what a great event that the two federations decided to work together. And we had, I think, 20 something teams, if you include the FS and the VFS and the free flying and whatever. There was 129 athletes. So it was great. Instead of having these countries having small events with only 3 or 4 teams in one category or just one, we managed to have, I think it was like 12 teams in AAA fighting it out. So in that sense, it was a great success. For a 4 day event, we finished in 3 days. Very, very hot. It was extreme heat waves, and there was not much. There was shade in a big hangar, but there was no cooling. There was no air condition or whatever. So it was a very tough event.
so the weather, the change of the weather was different for all the teams who were in Norway. Norway, we had to deal with. Then
Yeah, yeah.
you went to Belgium, and weather was great, obviously, at least for jumping. The Falcons went to Germany and ran into a similar situation as in Norway.
Yeah, yeah,
And
exactly. I mean, that bad weather that they had at the German nationals was the same as we had in Holland in a week of training. We had the same weather, so we had to fight to get jumps, and it was not actually as productive as we wanted. But the very next week, the weather cleared, and it was a heat wave. It was hot, hot, hot. The hottest September start that they've had, as I heard, in Belgium. So it was incredible, but it was great. We needed a meet where we knew it was going to be blue skies all the way every day. So there's no complaints about the heat.
so back to Sven Evans and his family affair. He has a new team now, the Family Flash
Yes, I
combination of.
kept saying, yeah, family flash, family flux, whatever, because there was also Team Lux. I kept confusing it, but what a great team with Annelies and Sim, and I want to say Liane. I hope it's right, Liana from Fireflash,
Mhm.
and of course the star Sim, you know, the 16-year-old son, and what a great person he is, a personality, what a great character. You know, he's very down to earth. And I mean, watching him on the big screen was amazing.
So maybe they're gonna stick together, you know, and Fire Flash will turn into the family Flash. Um,
Yeah,
Lena in there, you know, Lena is a Fire Flash member now, the latest
yeah,
Fire Flash
yeah.
member.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting what they do. I spoke to Maya as well. Maya was actually running the manifest. She did a great show,
Oh, great.
and I
Okay.
and I would definitely say to any event who needs a great manifest lady or person, Maya would be your person. She's an absolute machine. She was running everything. She had all the times, the you know what loads. She was amazing. And it was really difficult because we had multiple competitors in even within the four-way, we had people doing double duties in the four-way, video
Mhm.
here and there, and speed skydiving and everything in one. And she handled it, so she did great.
And then Mike Pennock as a meet director. So that combination is probably a quite
Yeah,
successful,
yeah,
efficient operating
mm,
machine.
yeah. Mike ran it really well together with Blokkies, as we call him, from Belgium. He was on the form of the VFS team. Blokkies we call, and they did a great job together as meet directors. Very difficult circumstances. We were all complaining. We wanted to finish quicker. Everybody wanted to jump faster in the heat, but you have to understand that their hands were tied with, you know, people were competing in multiple events, and we all had to finish the event. So it was
So,
long days on the drop zone.
so Siem was in the point slot, or which slot did he have?
Yes,
I
yes,
was looking at the
point.
videos. Okay. All right,
Yeah,
great. 16
yeah,
years.
no, no,
Fantastic.
and he's a machine. I mean, you said that he's going to be all the teams stay together. I'm sure they'll have a lot of fun together. I'm sure they'll fly as much as they can. But eventually, I think Sim's going to also explode. You know, he's really going to grow,
But
and he's
he's
one of
Dutch, right?
well, Dutch Belgium. They were included as Belgium, and I must be honest, they took a medal. They came third in the Belgium category, but they did offer their medals to the fourth place team because they were also a guest team for Belgium because Annelies is also Dutch. And
Mhm.
so Sim, I'm not sure what passport he's carrying, but the fourth place team said, no, you're part of us, you keep your medal. So it was great.
So is he also a candidate for Hayabusa then, if he has a Belgian passport?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think definitely. There's no doubt. So he will not go in immediately, but they have spoken to him, and they will try and keep him
Ah,
in the family and in the tribe. And
okay.
they have a lot of tunnel hours that they can at the end of each year that they can actually invest into these members, and that's kind of what has been decided. I think also from their bosses, advised, I should say, also from me, is they need to keep the new guys kind of in a bit of a family. And they have a few names already. They have a couple of youngsters already. I'm talking 19, 20, 21. And then, of course, Seema's 16. So he
Yeah.
can't join the military anyway. And I
Mhm.
think with his school plans, he'll need 3 or 4 years. But to leave him out there would be a big waste. So I think they're going to try and incorporate him into something every year to at least get him going. And as we see, I mean, he came across to me and I congratulated him, and he said, "This is my first medal," and he was holding up his bronze medal, and I said, "Well, I know for sure it's not going to be your last." And he said, "No, he's going to keep going for sure." You know.
Well, that's so cool. That will be one of the most interesting stories, you know, for the NSL news, I guess, because you know Sven had to quit Hayabusa because he did not want to join the military. And then
Yeah,
possibly Siem and his son, you know, will join the military to become a world champion with Hayabusa. Possibly, we are all just, you know, chatting here, but
yeah, yeah.
obviously that's real. He's 16 years old. He is a top competitor already by now, and
Yeah,
so
yeah. Well,
who
I
knows.
think if you're a young kid and you have that desire and passion, you know, and if you do go to the military to join Hayabusa or to get into it, it's not a bad option because then you're going to get your pension. You're going to, you know, I
Mm,
don't want to say you're set for life, but you're
mm.
salaried. You're going to get pension. medical, everything's covered, and all you're going to do is skydive. And ultimately, when you're young, that's all you want to do.
And Hayabusa will be challenged soon by the Czech juniors. So that
Exactly.
would be interesting.
Exactly.
Their average age is below 17 by now,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they have a whole junior team already. So this is fantastic. I mean, it's really exciting to me at least to see that there is a new generation coming.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
yeah.
like it looks like so dire, everybody's wings feuding and people getting old and blah blah. But then you have this, so that's very promising.
Well, it's important for all sports, for all businesses, for all sports. You need the youth. It doesn't matter what you're doing. We
And
can't
US is good.
neglect the youth. I mean, the elder people, you can keep competing forever, but eventually the youth need to take over. They need to be given a chance.
And the US will be starting a youth project now with the Golden Knights, supporting it or working on it.
Yeah.
So it's
Okay.
happening, and it's fantastic. So that's a good thing. So now I don't know where to start. Shall we talk and speculate a little bit about Hayabusa, or shall we go to the Lions and the Cheetahs first of all? Let's start with your team. So you're a cutter guy now.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about the cheetahs and the lions and
Well,
the tigers and all that.
yeah. Well, first of all, let me just go for the competition. I want to take my hats off to the two Dutch teams. I mean, out of the blue,
Yes,
had a fantastic meet. They showed the
at all.
consistency and all the training. They in all the heat, all the conditions. They had one bad round. If I'm looking at it, that they weren't happy with was the 16M17 round 5 was not great for them, and they lost 3 points there to the Lions. And I think, sorry, also the O22 Q1, they nearly funneled their O exit. Um, so those were the two rounds that they lost points. But for the rest, it was such a solid performance. And I said to them, it looked like every jump that they looked so much in control. They had everything in control. Their speed was their speed. They knew it, and they just didn't make any mistakes. So in that sense, hats off to them. And also Chaotic Motion had a very, very good meet. It was their last meet together. They are going to go separate ways, Chaotic Motion. But they ended up with a 16.4 average. I think it was also their highest outdoor average. So for Chaotic Motion also, it was great. And obviously, although even though Out of the Blue won it, we all know that there was no Hayabusa, there was no Fire Flash. So Belgium lacked a bit of fire, in the meet with regards to medals. But it made it nicer for everybody else because all of a sudden, and if I go to the Qatar teams, the Lions and the Cheetahs, they were looking at me and Luke. I'm saying I was not the only coach. Luke was with me coaching together. And they were saying, we've never fought for first place, Yes, in a double A
Hmm.
category or single A. But all of a sudden, there was a bit more pressure on them because they were fighting for the gold medal of the triple A. And that's
Mhm.
never happened before. So, in that sense, there was a bit of panic in our jumping. We were not happy with their jumping. Their results are okay. But the jumping, in every jump, there was stuff that you'd look at and you'd go, oh, that's not what we wanted. We didn't want it that way. But it was a bit of a panic situation, I'd say.
And that's where the seasoned Out of the Blue lineup, where they are very seasoned four-way competitors now. They've been at World Meets, Championships, World
Yeah,
Cups,
yeah,
everywhere. So they know probably by now, I mean, they do know how to handle those kind of pressure situations. It was not for the first place, but they have competed for the top 10 positions, for
yeah,
the fifth place and all kind of stuff. So I guess that's why they
yeah,
eventually won the rematch. Like they beat the
yeah.
Cheetahs eventually. The Cheetahs won in Norway.
It was, yeah, correct. But I must be honest, if I even watched Out of the Blues jumps in Norway, and you could see how good they were. They just had some unluckiness on the video. They had some stuff where they got a little bit stuck in the jumps, but you could see that they were trained and you could see their technique. And for example, this morning I was timing the lions and the cheetahs, their blocks. And in every jump, there was not one block that was consistent all the way through. There was a block 21 that I thought, wow, that was, or block 10. at block 10, for example, I said, wow, that's actually a very, very fast block 10. But the very next 10 in the next page was one of the worst. And that's kind of how they went through it. It was a
Yeah,
bit
no
of a,
surprise. They're so young as
you know,
competitors, you know.
yeah. So they were trying to go fast. Also, the Cheetahs blew it a little bit because they had beaten the Lions in Voss. And if you looked at it, you would have put them as number one ranking. They were also ahead of Out of the Blue. But they tried to go too fast, and they were making errors. And of course, we were trying to slow them down and trying to tell them just to trust what they had. All the things as a coach did. But I think it was just an experience gain. In fact, it was almost a better experience for them this meet than it was in Voss.
Well, the lion story, that was
Yeah,
something there, you know, the round one. But I was glad to hear you were at the competitors meeting, I'm sure. So I'm glad that they changed this. They understood, you know, that this was a ridiculous rule, totally out
yeah,
of proportion, and in the future it's not going to happen. You know, they should have changed it already in FOSS and just give a
uh,
yellow card they want. In the future, it's going to be a kind of a yellow card, right? For
yeah. Yeah, I
like,
mean, I think it doesn't even have to be discussed. I think we all know why the rule is there, and at the end of the day, if a team gives you footage that's judgeable,
right.
that's all we want. If the judges can judge it, then why give somebody a zero? But it was discussed, and it has been discussed. I don't want to even go in there. It was unfortunate it happened to us, but in our side, we also have to take blame. We were at the competitors meeting before, and they said it, and unfortunately we had our videos on the wrong setting. So
And you said you predicted already in FOSS. I remember that the Lions, you and Luke actually agreed on that the Lions are actually the strong of the two teams, and here in Belgium
yes,
they eventually made the point. You know, they obviously here,
yes.
you know,
What?
they beat. I mean, they won this internal duel.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, for sure, the Cheetahs surprised us. They really did great in both events. But the Lions kind of came through in Belgium. They dug themselves a hole with the zero in round one in Voss, and they never really came out of it on that first day. They kind of couldn't get their heads, up. They couldn't get their shoulders back, and they just kept making errors. But this morning, I was going through, like I said, I was kind of analyzing their meet in Belgium, and they bust 10 points. The Lions. So that's 17.3. I know we all say ifs in that, but speed wise, they were on an 18.3 with 10 busts. And if you look at the busts are 100% correct, but they stupid errors from the skydiving point of view. And
In
and the,
Norway,
the cheat, no, in Belgium,
in
in
Belgium.
Belgium,
Okay.
yeah.
I don't have the
And
penalties
it's
yet, so I have to add them.
yeah, yeah, so they had 10 busts, two were video, but I blame the team for not presenting the exit, to be honest. And then the Cheetahs in Belgium with a 16.6, they had 8 points in penalties. And their busts were also stupid busts. It was one of those that you look at it, and I even said to Luke, I said, I hope nobody knows we coaching these teams because this looks terrible for the coach. It
So
was it
what do
was
you know?
shock.
What do you
It
know
was
about
shocking.
Out of the Blue? Are they continuing doing? Did they talk about this? And then who has been coaching them? Wasn't that
Uh,
Dennis or
De- Dennis
Dennis?
has. So he would have more information. I must be honest, I'm not sure. I know Rolf just had a very young child. So Rolf just before Norway. So I'm not sure what their plans are to continue or not. They didn't say it. It wasn't out there. So I'm going to take it for granted they are. Maybe they'll tone it down a little bit, do some family life and whatever through the winter. But it would be sad if they do stop. It
Yes.
will be sad because they've got such a strong foundation now.
Hmm. So it's sad enough that Chaotic Motion is out of it. So I didn't know that either. Okay.
Yes,
Well, we
yeah,
take that. Well, then here's the thing. Finally, without Hayabusa and without Fireflash, Arrow is the Belgian national champion this year, right?
yes, yeah. And
And they
and
had
and
their
we saw them. They've done a lot of training jumps. I want to say Sven, I saw working with them, and maybe some of the Fireflash members in through the season. I'm not sure, but I did see Iro doing quite a lot of training, or heard about them doing a lot of training
Mhm.
jumps. And when we arrived, to be honest, they were doing like on the day before, they knocked out 6 to 8 training jumps, and they do their back-to-backs, their triples, their quads. So they're quite intense. So let's hope they can keep that going.
And then they had their annual duel with Falco again.
Yes.
1 point difference, right?
Yeah.
Was a
No,
really
it was very, very tight, that one. And obviously, I think Paul Hofstay in that team as well. If I'm just checking,
he's
the
still in
photo.
it. Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Really good to see him. And Valerie, with Glenn from Fire Flash. So really, I mean, that's why it's great to go to these events, because you see these teams that are normal, what you'd say, in the middle of the range, and all of a sudden there's no Hayabusa, no Fireflash, and everyone's coming up. I mean, those teams were all they were all the top 6. And I
Hang on
think
for
if
a
I look
second.
at
Sorry to interrupt, but you mentioned Glenn and Valerie from Fireflash for
well,
Falco.
Glenn is from Fireflash,
Yeah.
and Valerie is in Falco. That's a couple there, you know.
Yeah, I was just wondering, let me see here the team. I think I have the up-to-date team photo. Obviously
They're standing by the unicorns there, Falco.
yeah, Valerie. Okay, so that's Falco, yeah. And so there's Paul, obviously, Valerie, and then but Glenn is not in it, right?
No. But
Okay.
Glenn was Fireflash, and then for the last 2 rounds, don't quote me on why, but I think there was an injury or something. But Glenn filled in for the last 2 rounds.
Oh, I
So
see. Okay.
if you watch round 9 and 10, you'll see a Fireflash Regan there, and that's Glenn.
Okay. Well, that explains. I get it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted
Yeah.
you with
No,
you.
no worries. No, but what I was saying, if I look at the scores here, within the top 6 teams were all within 18 points, like 1.8
Mhm.
average. So Falco Iro even won round 7. They were the highest, or tied out of the blue with round 7, with a 16. So in that sense, I think it was great for the meet. You were watching all the teams. You weren't just watching the top team and yourself. You're kind of watching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and there were some good jumps all the
Yeah,
way through.
yeah, it was also a good race between Family Flash and Lux, in
Yes.
for the in the pack behind the top teams. I mean
Yeah.
Falco, Arrow, they were part of the top. Actually, all of
Yeah.
them. Arrow had a high score here now in round 5, and Falco was 1 point behind Arrow only. So they
Yeah.
were a part of this competition here on the top level.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, well then let's go to the elephant in the room.
How,
I cannot have,
Hayabusa.
I cannot have a conversation with you, Schmidty, as the person who brought Hayabusa to the World Championship title. You were the one who took it in 2014 or 13, and then
Yeah.
you won in 14, 16, 18, 21.
Yeah.
And so you are very close with NMP, PCH, Hayabusa. What's going on there? What can you tell us? Let's see. We can.
Well,
There are a lot of things going on, probably, but
well,
you.
I think you've reported on it already, but obviously, Mikey, after round 10 at Voss, it was unbeknown to all of Hayabusa. Even the boss that was walking around there, Luke Roscombe, the military boss in Voss, he came to me and he said, "Can we, after round, they were going out for round 10, and he came to me and he said, could we have a meeting afterwards?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." And I thought, well, something was happening. But then as they landed, we were waiting for the judging. But then he came to me and he said, "You know what? It hasn't been dubbed yet. The cameraman was still standing there. Can we have a meeting?" And then I knew it was serious. And as I walked, Mikey came alongside me and he said to me, he called the meeting, and the boss now knew. And he said, and that's why the boss came and called me. And he said this was his last jump for Hayabusa. And I was shocked, and I thought,
We
whoa,
were
man, who's it coming from? Is it coming from the boss, was it coming from himself? And he said, no, it was him. And then we left it. Then we walked 50 meters to their tent, and the guys were all sitting there. And then, of course, he told the team, and it was emotional for him. You know, he was in tears all the time. And at the end of the day, he said that he didn't, as much as he was part of Hayabusa, he didn't see his future continuing in the team. You know, he wanted to study, and he sits back, and we have to realize he's Italian. He's in the Belgian military. He's done everything to become Belgium and to be allowed to jump for Belgium. But he's living when he's there in a military base, in a room. I think he's got his own room with a bed. But when he goes to the showers, he's in a communal military showers. And then he walks around the base, and he didn't see that for another year. He'd slowly become, I think he's achieved his goal. He became world champion. He went again, came second in Eloy. And obviously with Neil, there was a chance that they can for sure medal in Israel. And could they beat airspeed or not? I think it would be very, very difficult for any team, including France or Belgium, to beat airspeed, but they would have a chance to tie rounds. I mean, that's almost would be a goal of going there. And I think he just didn't see it happening in a year, and that would hold him back 1 year from his studying in what he wanted to do with his family and girlfriend being in Italy.
Mm-hmm. Well, we will most likely hear more about it, and of course, I will try to get Mikey to the microphone too. You know, eventually, would be interesting to chat with him about his whole Hayabusa experience, and so we'll see what's coming there, right? Hayabusa is has to be recruiting again, so that it's
I mean, I can give some updates on that. I can't give it all because I'm not 100% sure on it. But what I can say is, in the tent, everybody thanked Mike. There was no hard feelings. Of course, we were shocked. We were all shocked. I mean, everybody's head was rolling of what do they do? The schism's coming up next year. They have to win it. And then it's Israel. It's only 1 year away. But everyone was on it and said, listen, we respect his decision. And it's better to continue without him than to continue with him when he's not 100% happy. We at the top level, you can only win a world meet when you enjoy being around your team and your head is fully focused and your head's not in Italy, for example. So, and they all respected it. I must be honest, they was very mature about it, and we kind of all left as good friends, and that will be, and which for me I'm very happy with. You never want a team ending to be ugly, that we don't speak to each other. And it's happened in the past. So in that sense, I think very, very good. And then when we were at the Belgium Dutch Nationals last week, Hayabusa were all there, the members. They were on the ground in the morning drinking coffee, and they had already recruited two guys, and they took them to the tunnel on Friday morning, and they had 2 more on Saturday morning. And from there, I think they only have to make an exact decision by December for the military. The decision must be made, but they would recruit, they would then pick their guy. And it's a case of they will have a camp. I think there's a tunnel camp coming up very soon. And then they will also go to Zephyr Hills. So if possible, they would already go with a new recruit. And at least that will still be a test phase. So even though there'll be one guy there, if the guy make it, he's still under observation. And then by December, they have to make a final decision. But I'm sure they will be happy to share what they have with you. There's no real secrets in it. And I cannot give any names because I'm not sure if they have chosen one or the other, if they've told everybody. So if I say to you now they chose Mr. A, it's not fair on Mr. B and C because they haven't really heard from them as yet, But they do have 4 young, but it will be a big step back. I'm talking guys that are 19 years old, 20 or 30 jumps only, but potential. They're athletes, So in that sense, it's really good.
Well, Skydive City isn't far from here, so let's try. So
apparently good golf courses and good fish restaurants nearby.
We've seen each other there a few times. Yeah. Well, too bad you're not doing this anymore, but the Qatar cheetahs and lions will hopefully also train in Florida
Yeah,
again sometime soon, and
yeah.
then we can have a beer again together. Well,
Well, we'll catch up for sure.
are there any plans yet for the lions and the cheetahs? Florida plans yet?
We're busy with that right now. The problem right now that we're facing with all the Qatar teams is the Tigers as well. There's a paramotor is also under our wing. We do paramotor in this group. We do canopy formation, accuracy, ballooning now as well. And the World Paramotor Championships is here in Qatar. And right now we've been blocked by our bosses that we need to all be here. And they have a test event, I think, in December. So November, December, January, February. No, right now, none of the formation skydiving teams can leave. Maybe as soon as the event finishes in February. We're trying to see if the top bosses will allow us to go out and train, but right now it's a no.
And then there's the Shamrock in March. So that
yes,
Ramadan.
I have Shamrock in my calendar, but it's right on Ramadan. So it's the first week of Ramadan. So I'm not sure right now. We need to submit our calendars for next year, but we kind of have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, depending on what happens. So we're not sure.
Well, they can survive the Shamrock without eating during the day. So that's doable.
That's true.
They can
eat at night.
So here they can
eat at night. They eat at night anyway. The problem is they need to sleep. They need to sleep somewhere.
Gary, we're running out of time. Well, just quickly, I'm sure that at least for the CISM, David will probably come back if they cannot work in the new guy quickly enough. David will probably come back for a little while.
Pretty certain. Yeah. I think they won't even. I don't think they'll even risk it. They'll take Dave into the CISM. So Dave will come in, and obviously Neil and Bob will have to fight for the outside center slot, or Dave goes outside center. He's done it. He's done it before.
Strong lineup again. So that's a strong lineup. Okay,
yeah, it will be strong, but they still need to train because the Germans are getting stronger and stronger, and of course you have the Tigers who are the CISM is their game as well. So I would say I would never write off the Qatar Tigers.
Yeah, that's true. Well, we'll see. It's all very interesting stuff. Gary, you have work to do there in Qatar. It's more all administrative stuff and things, not really coaching at the moment, but enjoy the time there anyway. And then
thanks, good.
And then you go back to good old Europe, I guess, for a little while again.
Yeah. And 45 degrees here outside.
Oh my. Here it goes the opposite direction here now. The weather becomes beautiful now, so
yeah, you're lucky there.
New Year's Nationals running, that begins, it's already in full swing, but formation skydiving begins on Monday. And it looks like
cannot wait for that.
Yeah. Okay. Schmidty, thank you very much.
Thank you
for the time, taking the time again. And we'll talk soon again.
You're very welcome, Kurt. Thank you, man.
Thank you.